Hey, we're live.
We're live, and I made a complete brain fart. We've been talking for 20 minutes already, and I hit the timer, the countdown timer, the 30-second timer, and apparently I forgot to hit go live. So this is embarrassing to say the least.
Chris
And
was blaming me. I
so
see
John,
Chris.
John said, "Don't worry about it. Start over." So he's making me feel much better about this brain fart.
Hey, I just got a notification that we're live from YouTube, so
No, because
I
I
should
went
have
to
looked for that
YouTube
earlier.
and I'm wondering why isn't this going live? And
Oh man,
geez.
that's funny.
All right. Okay, I'm sorry, everybody. That was a
Hey,
real. I thought
Boomslang's here. He wants to know
and
who
he's
our
been
guests are
here,
tonight.
and Stories
Poor
from
guy.
Cardboard has been here.
You know what?
All right.
Here's what's great about our hobby is most of our colleagues in the hobby business are sitting there sorting or doing something, so they got nothing but time, right? So even though we're 20 minutes
That,
late, it's not like we're
yes.
keeping anybody from doing anything. So if you're
They'll
there,
bet in
thanks for
20
sticking
minutes. They'll
around.
be like, "Wait, didn't I just hear that?" All right, everybody. So we're going to start this over. John, I apologize.
No
Um,
worries.
I'm just
I'm
glad I
exhausted. I
have
need
with
to
you.
take a nap.
Okay. All right, everybody. I have John here. I met John on, I think it was Bo's. Well, wait. Did you do the hobby roundtable before Bose? Before you went to Bose?
I'm not sure. I'm a
Okay.
bit of a chat room agitator, or you know, who knows where
Yeah,
I was discovered. Our boy Kin there though was a big promoter of me early, so I owe
he
a lot
was.
to him. That's for sure.
All
So
right.
I don't know
Uh,
where. Maybe Kin knows that answer
Speaking of Ken, he
better than
just
I do.
entered. Yeah, Ken, we've been. I did not go. I hit the timer. I did not hit live, and we were talking for 20 minutes before I realized we were not doing this. And then John said, "Don't worry about it. We'll start over." All right. So yeah, I dropped the ball. So again, everybody will hear what me and John said 20 minutes ago. I asked John, "Is he from Philly?" Right?
I'm from Philly, born and raised. First 6 years of my life in the city, then we moved to the suburbs. Most people I'm from some really bad stock. Kensington, my father, and Olney, my mom. And most people moved across the bridge to New Jersey, but our parents went the other way towards Valley Forge. So
And
I
that's a
think
little northwest, right, from
a
Philly?
little northwest, yeah, for sure. We get a little more. We got a little more snow back then. We were in the sticks, as my friends used to say. And I remember it's fun because I remember in the city, I had enough of an experience in the city where we played, or at least at my age, I got to watch people play stickball in the alleys and stuff like that. So,
Wow,
it was
stickball.
like real old school stuff, pinky balls with broomsticks and the kind of stuff
And
you read about.
this is mid to late 70s.
This is the early to mid '70s. We moved out in
Okay.
'74. I was born in '68. I think we moved out in '74. I was halfway through my first grade year. So
Okay.
yeah,
Um, and I think now going back on the questions, I'm trying to remember what I did ask already. Um, you
I
grew
gave
up a
bad
Philly.
answers anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
you grew up a Philly fan.
Grew up a Phillies fan. Phillies were pretty much everything, and I tell people that it's ironic because my mom, the only thing I knew was the Phillies, and the Oakland A's when I was younger were really really good, and '71 through '75. But it wasn't until later on that my mom actually told me that she grew up an A's fan, and I hadn't even realized they played in Philly when I was in the '70s. So my mom told me that the A's were essentially the only team in town. The Phillies were horrible for so long. So most people in Philly were A's fans, which is kind of baffling. Did the right team move? It seems like
Right.
the Phillies were going to move, but that would have seemed a little stupid to call them the Kansas City Phillies, right? So
Hmm. If I could be wrong, I'm a Sox fan, but because my dad was a Sox fan. But I think Nellie Fox started in Philadelphia for a couple of years before he went to the Sox, right?
well, that was before my time. So I don't
True, you're
know.
right.
I don't
Or
know
was it the
because
opposite?
yeah, probably the opposite because the
Oh,
Phillies were pretty good in the '50s, and like the early '50s, they went to the World. In 1950, they
yeah, I'm
played the
sorry, I should
Yankees.
know this. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, he was a rookie with the White Sox.
yeah. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would think that I don't recall him being there, but you never
I'm
know.
pretty
In the
sure.
'60s, a lot of people ended their careers in different teams. Eddie Matthews. I think I have a '68 Eddie Matthews card from the Houston and Astros or whatever. So
What's funny you should say Houston because I know that I'm pretty sure that Nellie Fox. I think he went White Sox. Then I think he went to what? When did the A's become the Phillies?
the A's never became the
I
Phillies.
mean, the Philadelphia A's, right?
Philadelphia A's moved to Kansas City in the mid '50s, '55 probably.
And when did the Phillies start?
Phillies started in if I'm doing my math, I want to say 1891 or 1893 because when they won the World Series in 1980, it had been something like 87 or 89 years their existence, something like that.
I don't remember. Okay, I don't think he would. Maybe I'm getting something wrong, but I know he
Oh,
played
you
for.
know what? You're right. 47, 48, and 49. He started with the Philadelphia A's, so he
Okay,
got out of there right before the World Series.
okay,
And went to the White Sox in 50. So you are dead on. And you're right, Nellie Fox finished with the Houston Colt 45s.
Culper got there. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I only know that because my dad was a Sox fan, and
Yeah.
my dad, my dad passed away in 2011, and he got to see the Sox in '05. But his twin, my only surviving uncle at the moment, I had asked him. My dad never really talked about collecting baseball. To be honest, my dad and I never really talked about much together as far as like he was a cop for 34 years in Chicago. And then I never really asked him about his childhood much about like,
Right.
I know he played in baseball leagues. We didn't really ask I never asked him if he collected baseball cards or anything like that. And then I did ask my uncle a couple weeks ago, did you guys, and I know we grew up poor, and I had asked my uncle, were you able to afford baseball cards? And he's like, sure. How long did you collect? And they said about for like 3 years. And it was like during the 50s. My
Okay.
dad was born in 39.
Okay.
So he would have been in his like early teens and early
Yeah.
50s, which was
Yeah. Or
wheelhouse
Bowman. Yeah.
vintage,
Right in
right?
the Bowman time there. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, we never really talked about much about that, but I do know that Fox was his favorite player. And
Gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Cooter called it too. Cooter had it right in the late 40s, which
yeah,
is.
okay. Um, and so, yeah, I want to go back to these. All right. I did ask John earlier. And you had mentioned the 94 strike turning you off. And so I had asked you of all the sports teams, all the football, baseball, basketball, and hockey. And I know you're not, as you mentioned, you're not a big hockey guy like me. Um, did you have, I'd asked you, was Phillies the main team for you, or
Yep.
was it?
Yeah. Right up until the strike. And then after the strike, I pivoted towards the Eagles. And I, after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I was kind of drained. So I started. I guess I overlapped with European soccer a little bit. Manchester City, probably my main focus right now of fanaticism. I mean, I love the Eagles still. I don't, I check in on the Phillies. I check the score every day, but I can't watch a baseball game now to save my life, and which is odd because when I grew up, we listened to baseball games.
Mhm.
Many nights I went to sleep West Coast when they were on the West Coast, and I'd listen to KYW in Philly and to the Phillies, and because we didn't have you. I know it was a little different in Chicago. Maybe it was just the Cubs, but we would see the Phillies every Sunday would be on TV, and just their West Coast games would be broadcast because it was inside the city limits of Philly. There was a company called Prism, which had the cable rights, I guess, to do their home games, and we didn't have cable TV, we didn't have VCRs or anything, so I would listen to the Phillies and read about them in the Daily News the next day. So it was really fun. That's how games and all that, but after that, yeah,
Well, yeah,
it's
I
yeah.
remember. I remember when I was younger. I remember watching the White Sox on Sports Channel, which I think later became Sports Vision.
Okay.
And I think I could be. I don't remember if it was cable or not because I remember.
But
I
they
thought I
weren't on
remember.
WGN, right? It
Well,
was
WGN, yeah, that was
just the
Cubs
Cubs, right?
until I don't know when the Sox came on WGN. It was much later. But I do remember. I mean, my best friend was a Cubs fan, and I would go to his house every day after school in elementary school, and he was a
Hmm.
Cub fan. His dad would have the Cub game on, and so I always heard
Because they
Stone
played
and
in the
Perry.
afternoons, right?
I'm sorry.
Because they played in the afternoons, right?
Yeah, 120.
Yeah,
We'd come home
yeah,
at 2:30 from school, and the game would be on in the background. And I mean, that was even though I'm a Sox fan, that was the thing I always remember. It was
right.
going to my friend's house. His mom is like my second mom, and anyway, and I'm her fourth son. But
Wow,
I yeah, and so I did. I love Steve Stone. He's with the Sox now
right.
doing show stuff, but I've always loved Steve Stone and Harry Carey. And Harry Carey also was with the White Sox.
Yep,
But yeah, so yeah, the Cubs were on WGN, which was a normal. I think it was just not cable. Yeah, so it was Superstation, right?
yep.
So like TBS. Well, no, it was
TBS same
TBS
way,
was
yeah.
a cable station, right?
Well, it was a local station, just like
Back then. Yeah.
WGN, but they also offered their services to cable platforms throughout the country. So
Okay.
it was a local station that
In
would be
Atlanta. Yeah.
that would be broad that they would say, hey, here's where do we point our satellite dish, and that's that. They'd essentially
Yeah.
gave themselves to every other market, which is brilliant, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think everywhere you go, there'll be Braves and Cubs fans because of those two channels.
Right.
Um, and again, before I fumbled the ball, I had asked. But actually, this is right when we realized we were doing this all wrong. Um,
We?
I said, "Who are your favorite players from each team, each Philadelphia sports team?"
Yeah, it's funny, and I should have thought about that some more during the time. But Michael Schmidt, of course, and yes, he is the best third baseman of all time because he could beat you with a stick, he could beat you with his glove, beat you with his arm, and Brooks Robinson could beat you with his glove and his arm. But the dirt was a little soft in Baltimore. Schmidt did it on the AstroTurf more than half his games because a lot of the National League was AstroTurf back then. So it'll always be Mike Schmidt all day, all day, every day for me as far as best third baseman. Football, right? My favorite.
Let me guess. Let me try and guess.
You're
Your
never going to
favorite
guess it.
Philadelphia Eagle. I'm going to say. I forgot the guy who passed away, defensive end,
Oh, Reggie White.
Ridgeway.
Yeah, no, him leaving Philadelphia. There was
Turn
actually
off.
two guys that passed away. Jerome Brown, I guess. If Jerome Brown had lived, that would have been a whole different story. But I like Jeremiah Trotter, who came along in the late '90s, and I like Brian Westbrook. Brian Westbrook went to college in Philadelphia. The best Eagle of all time would have to be Chuck Bednarik because I think he won 3 championships, and he was just knocked the bejesus out of Frank Gifford in that iconic photo. So, but as far as my favorites, it's Trotter probably. Westbrook, but I'm going to tell you the number one guy would have to be
Donovan McNabb.
Brian Dawkins. Definitely not Donovan McNabb.
McNabb played at Mount Carmel in Chicago, which is
Yep.
I went to De La Salle, which we're in the same Catholic League conference, and
Right.
my school beat him. I'm sure you've heard of Mount Carmel Caravan in high school sports in Chicago.
Yep.
We beat them in state playoffs 9-6, and we beat McNabb in the playoffs. So I can't say that.
Listen, Diego just called me out. I did say Dawkins. I just said Brian Dawkins is the best. And I'll tell you a quick story about Brian Dawkins. Brian Dawkins was like first of all, Brian Dawkins did something that no other NFL player did. I think he had a sack, a fumble recovery, an interception, and a touchdown all in the same game, which nobody's ever done.
Yeah, that's pretty
And I think he did like 3 of them on one play. It was a blocked punt or whatever. But I was working a show, a charitable event, and Brian Dawkins was like the draw for the charity, and he did a couple things. First of all, he bid up and won some of the auctions for charity, which is great because normally you sit there and it's a meet and greet, sign some autographs, and that's it. Him and his wife bought a couple vacations as that. Then there was an Eagles package where you could bid to go spend a day at the like a regular weekday at the facility while they were practicing and get shown around by Dawkins. And these 2 guys were going hot and heavy, and they were into like 5 digits, $10, $15, $20,000. And he stopped the auction and he said, "If you both agree to pay the last price, I'll do it for each one of you." So he essentially doubled the intake of the charity, which was amazing. And I think that I just think he's a wonderful guy as well as a great football player.
All right, so forgive me. So YouTube is That 70s Card Show, right?
That 70s YouTube is That 70s Card Show. Twitter at 70s Card. Is that it? We're done already?
No, we're not. I just add a banner. I'm trying.
I'll talk to Ziggy real quick. Ziggy,
that's what I meant.
Ziggy, listen, that team, I was kind of talking to Dan about that 1990 and that era Eagles team. There were some murderers on that team. I mean, you had.
Is that Ricky Waters? No.
That's Andre Waters he's talking
Andre
about.
Waters.
Andre Waters was probably the second best safety on that team behind Wes Hopkins, right? And then Eric Allen was a cornerback. You had Reggie. You had Jerome Brown. You had Clyde Simmons. The linebackers, Byron Evans and Seth Joyner, they were just stone-cold killers on that defense. I think Mike Golick was the 4th member of that defensive line. So that was, I think they were number 1 pass rush and overall. So great defense. Ziggy's not wrong with Dirty Waters.
Herman's at the Braves game. Hey, Herman.
I think the Braves are off tonight. He's probably the only one there.
To be honest, I don't know much about Phillies history. I can only name a few guys. Oh, and
Uh,
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. I don't collect football cards, but I do collect wide receivers that I love wide receivers. I don't know why. I would love to play wide receiver, but
okay.
I was too short, never tried out in high school. But I love wide receivers, especially the prima donna stars. So I want to ask you this. Do you ever, I'm sure you don't, and he had problems at the time, personal demons when he was an Eagle, but he became a Hall of Famer. Who am I talking about? Wide
Terrell
receiver.
Owens, of course.
No, no, before him.
Chris Carter. Chris Carter, of
Yes,
course.
yes. Are there ever?
Yeah.
Do you ever have wonder ifs if Chris Carter was like in a better situation with the Eagles? Would that have obviously when he was it? Who
Yeah.
was his quarterback in that time? Was it
It was
Cunningham?
it was Cunningham, and one of the problems with that Eagles team is when you talk about that great Eagles team, you talk about all the defenders. Buddy Ryan didn't care about offense at all. So there's a story of Randall Cunningham was the QB, and they put like whatever they put a piece of paper in his playbook, and he was supposed to study the plays, and when he came back the next day, the coaches checked the piece of paper never moved. It was because he never looked at the playbook. So they had Chris Carter, who all he did was catch touchdowns, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what Buddy said. But Chris Carter credits Buddy Ryan for turning his life around because even though he's
Mm-hmm.
catching touchdowns, the cocaine was getting to him, and he said it was the best thing he ever did was get cut from that team because he would have been a stud for sure.
Want to answer that question from Ziggy? No.
They went to the Super Bowl, Ziggy. I mean, I can't argue with that. McNabb had, up to that point, McNabb had a Torrance Small, Todd Pinkston, Charles Johnson. I guess he had horrible receivers, and that shows you how good Terrell Owens was. He took the team, all of a sudden they're in the Super Bowl. I don't know how many straight NFC Championship games I sat through where they lost. But it was 3 or 4, and Terrell Owens was the difference maker, and he almost won that game, that Super Bowl, on a broken leg. So I don't want to, I don't want the guy in my life, but I love the guy on my football team. That's for sure.
Hey, Cooter, Bo, Ziggy, Diego. Thanks for joining, guys. Well, since I mentioned McNabb, what did you think of McNabb as an Eagle?
He got off on the wrong foot, obviously, right? So, with the whole booing thing at the draft, sure, that's unfortunate, but what he failed to do from the very get-go is understand that it was a radio stunt. It was a publicity stunt for a radio station, and he took it personally, and he always took it personally. Now, the biggest McNabb problem I have was I was headed to the airport once, and they were playing the Bengals, and they go into overtime, and they tie the game. And afterwards, McNabb says, "Well, I didn't realize the game could end in a tie. I just thought we kept playing." Now, if you're at that point, he had a $120 million contract over however many years, 10 years. If you don't know that the game can't end in a tie, or the game can end in a tie, then it shows me that you really don't care about the game that much. So another thing that drove me crazy about McNabb, throwing the ball out of bounds when you're a yard behind the line of scrimmage, running to the sideline. Okay, that's a sack at that point, and he would do that, and it's a yard loss. He would do that constantly. It would drive me crazy. You throw the ball away. Okay, if throw the ball to the line of scrimmage. That's all you have to do. So I think I think generally he's a great guy. Like, he's very charismatic, and he handled himself well. But and he had, like I said, some crappy wide receivers, and he did all right. But it's like, man, when people make it kind of look easy and nonchalant, those are the easy ones to get on. And I think he was kind of like that. He was a little too.
Where does he rank as far as your quarterbacks?
In Philadelphia,
Yeah.
he's probably the best Philadelphia. Statistically, he's the best Philadelphia quarterback ever. Talent-wise, I put him behind Cunningham. Cunningham had all the talent in the world. Nick Foles is the best quarterback in Philadelphia history. We all know that, or at least the last 60 years. No doubt about that. Diego loves Donovan McNabb. He likes the Irish people. I'm a Nick Foles guy. All right. History will never repeat itself, but boy, talk about somebody stepping in it. That guy. Jaws was all right. I like Jaws, but Jaws is Jaws was all right.
All right, what happened? I just saw.
Better golf course owner than quarterback though. Well, he's a good quarterback, but
Where did my comments? Here we go. Comments. Okay. All right. Oh, Wentz.
Wentz. Oh my God, Diego, come on, buddy. How many chances did Wentz have after that?
It's not
Right?
wrong.
Yeah, well, I mean, Wentz would have been the MVP that year. But with that said, isn't that the same kind of story with Brady and Bledsoe? Right? Bledsoe got knocked out, almost lost his liver or something, and then Brady comes out of nowhere.
Oh, and by the way, guys, I don't know if this was pre. I think this was pre Dan Fumble. You had talked about you were a Premier League fan.
Yeah, Manchester City.
He's a Man City fan, and I was telling him.
Yeah.
I think the Crean story was pre Fumble as well. Tell me your story. The Crean you saw.
Yeah, I was at the Dallas Card Show going to the lobby, and there was a obviously an Asian gentleman, and I said, "Hey, where are you from?" He had a pass on from the show. He said, "Oh, Korea." And I said, "Oh, well, what are you here to, what are your sports?" Because I'm curious what he was there to collect. And he said basketball, but his favorite sport is soccer. And of course, he said Son is his favorite player, and Spurs is his favorite team. So most of your audience probably won't understand that, but Son's a pretty big deal, obviously in Korea.
Yeah.
Despite the shady military getting out of his military duty, right, because he scored X amount of goals, but he really is a heck of a player. Probably the best Asian soccer player ever in the Premier League, I would think.
I would think so, but I'm forget. I don't. I like I said, I don't follow football. But there was a guy that was on, I think, Man City, that was a Korean player. I forgot his name though.
That must have been a while back, right?
It was maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah. And they weren't that good back then either.
I can't remember his name. Maybe I don't expect anybody in the chat to know this, but I forgot his name. But he was a star. He wasn't as big. I don't think he was as big as Son, but he was pretty popular. But when John mentioned his Korean story, I was at the 2019 show, and a Korean guy saw my shirt, which had Korean Hangul on it, and he came up to me, and I told him I was on vacation and I worked in Korea, and we started talking, and I told John that I traded away one of those World Cup Chrome Son Heung-min cards for some Lee Hak-ju who flunked out of Cubs minor leagues and back in KBO right now and not playing well. And so I traded that card, and I think I was just being a sucker, being a nice guy. Okay, let's do this. It's not going to happen a lot, and so I did it, and I regret that. But and I don't care. I don't flip cards, so I don't really care.
You could sell that card to Bo.
Yeah, I probably could have.
Yeah.
I do have a Son Heung-min collection. I do buy cards here and there. I don't pay big bucks for them. I just pay a couple bucks for his cards. But yeah, I'm happy that and I was telling John, I only follow Premier League when they show Kane and Son highlights, because those two guys are like probably the best all time as far as being teammates and scoring. Well, I think they broke a record, like most
probably,
or something. It's amazing what they do together. Hopefully they can actually win a title or something, but
not at
I don't know how that works.
They don't win hardware in Tottenham.
So wait, how do you win the hardware? Just being first place?
You see, here's what's interesting about European soccer, and I tell people that it's like having 6 NFLs, and they all play each other eventually. But even within their league, like they don't have playoffs in their league. So at the end of the year, whoever has the most points, 2 points or 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, wins the league. If it's tied, whoever with a better goal difference wins. Right. So during that year, within England, they'll play some tournaments. They'll have the FA Cup and they'll have the League Cup, where they play various teams from different levels. It's essentially like playing, the Phillies playing, the Allentown Iron Pigs or whatever the heck they are, Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. You have different level teams from all over playing the big teams as well. So that's a cup, and then the FA Cup at the end of the year is essentially a tournament. And then they get together, the best teams in each country get together and play in a couple other, the Champions League, which is the top of the top, and then the Europa League, which is the next one down. So not only are they playing their own people in their own division, they're playing people from other divisions, and they're playing people from other leagues in the Europe too. So it's pretty wild stuff. It's
So
something's always going.
what determines a Premier League winner? Just the regular season record?
Regular season record. So there's 20 teams in the Premier League. So they play 19 home games, 19 away games, 38 games, 3 points again for the victory, 1 point for the tie, and then like this one this year, Manchester City and Liverpool went to. And here's another great thing about England, right? Everybody starts the last at the same time on the last day of the season. The entire league plays at the same starting time because if there is something on the line, which there was this past weekend, the drama is immense. In 2012, Man City pulled it off in overtime or extra time. This year, Man City was down 2-0, and Liverpool had a chance to, if Liverpool won and Man City lost or tied, then Liverpool was the champion. So at the 75th minute,
Yeah, they made a video on
75th
that.
minute, City was losing 2-0, and they ended up scoring 3 goals in 5 minutes, and then they're the champions. So
Wow.
Kevin De Bruyne, Diego, no doubt about it. Kevin De Bruyne is the best player on Man City, possibly
I
the
do
best
know that
player in
name.
Europe.
I
Yeah,
do know that name. All right,
and they're getting Erling Haaland next year, which is the
oh, they are? Wow.
Yeah, so they signed him already.
And was he coming from a German league?
Yeah, he's from Norway, and then he was in Austria for at 18, and then he went to Borussia Dortmund, which is Borussia Dortmund's famous for signing young players and then selling them off. They've done that a couple times. That's where Pulisic came from, and all that stuff. So they're used to buying guys for $18 million and selling them for $100 million or 100 million pounds or euros.
All right, what do you think I'm about to show you?
Gosh, I hope it's not your underwear.
No.
I hope it is your underwear. Oh, there's Son right there.
This is a 2011 Bundesliga sticker.
Yeah, I was going to say that Fly Emirates. I don't know what that's from. I wonder what.
To my knowledge, this is his earliest sticker. I don't know if it's technically a rookie, but when I saw this, I'm like, oh, I got to get it.
That's
so
a Panini, right?
Tops.
Oh, it's top sticker. Okay.
Tops Fußball.
Man, he looks young, huh?
Yeah. I have seen other people with this slab as well, so I was like,
That's nice.
Thanks. So you told me that who is your favorite Eagle?
I say Dawkins. I kind of try
Dawkins.
to be dramatic there, but Diego put a wet towel on me. So
right.
Trotter, Westbrook, and then Dawkins. Now we're on the basketball, right?
No, did we cover baseball?
Yeah, Schmitty.
Schmidt. Okay, all right.
Michael
all
Jack
right.
Schmidt.
Basketball.
My favorite Sixer of all time is Dr. J. That's just my generation. The greatest athlete in Philadelphia history is Wilt Chamberlain. Born in Philadelphia, played for Philadelphia.
Okay.
Dr. J, right? There's no doubt about it. I mean, he needed a little help, but when Moses came there, but that was a great team. It was a great era for basketball, I think, with the Celtics and Lakers and Sixers and Rockets towards the middle of the decade, and then of course the Pistons at the end of the '80s. Just I think the '80s were a great time for
Did Dr.
NBA.
J play ABA?
He played for the Nets and the Squires, or the Squires and the Nets and the ABA.
Okay. He started there, then came to the NBA.
Yep.
And then
Kobe is the third best athlete from Philadelphia, Mickey. Okay, behind Wilt Chamberlain. West Chamberlain, boy, that was a slip. That's an old Phillies player that failed. Wilt Chamberlain, then Reggie Jackson, and then Kobe Bryant. That's my opinion.
Oh, Reggie's from Philly.
Yep, Cheltenham, just outside the borders of the city. Yep.
And I know you're not a huge hockey guy, but do you have a favorite hockey player?
Well, I remember the parade. I remember when the Flyers won back in the '70s, and it was crazy. The city went nuts. But there's even a debate within hockey diehards in Philly between Bobby Clark and Bill Barber, I would think. So I would say Bobby Clark, but somebody more knowledgeable than I would say Bill Barber, most likely.
I've been collecting goalie SLUs, starting lineups. And my Ron Hextall has not come yet. I have him in.
Oh,
I
really?
bought him in a Phillies in a Flyers.
Okay. Yeah.
I believe.
They loved him. He was perfect for that town, Ron Hextall.
Yeah. All right. So those are the 4 sports. Okay. Throw a curveball here. I want to know your favorite non-Philly player for each of those sports as well.
Well, Carl Michael Yastrzemski, of course.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite baseball player of all time.
And he was the last Triple Crown before Cabrera did it.
Yes, yeah. And I tell people the warmongers would love him because he was racking the stuff up, man. He had an amazing, he just had an amazing run there in the late 60s, early 70s. He was just a great player. But there's no doubt about that. Yaz is my guy. Football, I'm not that passionate about football. I'll tell you the greatest player I ever saw in person, and that was why I was at the Eagles game, and that was Barry Sanders. I mean, I watched this guy on a horrible team do amazing things, even in front of me, and I have a lot of respect for him, especially since, even walking away. I mean, I know a lot of players have walked away since, but he was one of those rare birds that, he's top of his game and he's done, like, and he didn't want any fanfare, he wasn't doing it for financial reasons, and he just great player.
All right, how about this one? Can you answer that? I guess.
What's the story with Yaz? I don't know, Chris.
Him?
Oh, you want to know what my story is? Yeah,
I don't know.
I think that's what Chris is saying there. I don't know, Chris, and I was talking to Dan about this a little earlier, but I think like the '75 World Series did it for me, and I think the name, like obviously that name is crazy. Like who the heck has a name like that? And I'm from an Irish family where we have simple names because we're simple people, and I looked at that like, wow, that's awesome, and I just something about Yaz. That's why I don't know. I like the way he went about his business. He looks at me every day. I have all his cards right there, and as I joke, he's only got one of them. 1966, he's smiling. Other than that, he's got the resting bitch face, which I love. That's how I go about my life. So if I don't smile, then people don't ask me silly questions. So that I kind of modeled that after him, I guess. But I just great player, quiet player, just did his work and was great at it. And talk about pressure, right? Who wants to be the guy that follows Ted Williams? And it's just nuts. But great guy. I don't think he's one of those guys where nobody would say, like, you never heard anybody say anything bad about Yaz. Like, how could you like him? It's not how could you like him. I understand Chris's question, why do you like him? But how could you like him is never the question, because he's just, we had, in Philadelphia, my brother loved Mike Schmidt. My dad hated Mike Schmidt. And that's, people of a certain age will remember that Mike Schmidt had a tough relationship with Philadelphia fans. Ted Williams had a tough relationship with Boston fans. Yaz didn't have that tough relationship. People just loved him. So.
Favorite basketball player outside of Dr. J?
I think Jordan is the best ever. And obviously I have a 24-year-old son, and of course he thinks LeBron's the best ever. And people before me will say Wilt is the best ever. Right. Like I said, I grew up I saw Kareem, Magic, Bird, Doc, saw all these great players, right? And Jordan is the greatest of all time. So it's just, I think that there's no doubt about it.
Agree.
Yeah.
But I am a homer, so yeah.
Right. You didn't ask me my football player. This will be controversial.
Okay, go. Wait, controversial. So it's got to be someone against who's is affiliated Cowboy?
Well, no, that'll never happen, Dan. You'll never get me to say that. I think that there's no doubt that Tom Brady is the greatest football player of all time. Now he's not my favorite, but I did say Barry Sanders. But I think GOAT wise, there's no Tom Brady, and most of the people don't like Tom Brady, probably 3/4, but there's no doubt that he's the greatest of all time. Love Barry Sanders, best player I ever saw, or my favorite player, I guess, outside of the Eagles. But I'm telling you, Brady's the best ever.
Hockey player.
It has to be Gretzky, right? It would have to be. I mean, this guy was what, $140 wet, and he did what he did in the NHL, and he started when people weren't wearing helmets and stuff like that. He played against some tough guys when he came in, and he still did. He still did what he did.
All righty. I do want to get into some card talk. You haven't been there yet. Okay.
Kin's back. Can we talk about soccer? Because I think Kin wasn't here.
Well, that's how I am with wrestling when he brings up wrestling stuff or NASCAR
Wrestling's not a sport.
or
You're gonna
driving.
make stuntman cards next. Wrestling is just stuntmen.
Right. Okay. All right. So you started collecting when you were 1975, 76, right? You said?
Probably, I
Oh no, I'm
remember.
sorry. You got into sports in 75, 76.
Yeah, no. See, I had an early episode about my brother with wacky packages, where he sent my mom
Yes.
sent him out, right, to get some milk, and with the change, meaning the coins, buy some wacky packs. Well, he came back with like $4.50 worth of wacky packs, which was a box and a half. So that's the first time I knew what cards were.
Okay.
When we moved, my brothers had, I guess, a nice little stash of cards, and we moved. And I remember my house in the suburbs. I remember seeing a big cardboard box and the '73 Willie Mays on top. And the reason that box was on the porch was I later realized was because my mom was throwing it out. So that's the first time I saw a baseball card. That '73 Mays. I still remember it in the Mets
Wait.
uniform.
Why was she? Whose was it?
They were my brother's cards, both of my brothers. My brothers are older than me. So I started collecting and buying packs, whether it's at Little League, at the stores, Wawa's, whatever. Every store had them. My mom wised up and didn't throw mine away because I think she realized. But I'm imagining in my head, my brother's born in '63, my other one in '65. So I imagine those were like, we're talking 70, 71, 72, 73. Those are some pretty prime years to get some cards, right? I'm still working on the 70 and the 72 set. So I wish, obviously I wish that they were there, but my
So
mom
that box went to the garbage.
went somewhere, never went into my collection. We never, I am a self-made man. I don't have any cards from my brothers. My dad grew up poor in the Depression, right? His parents were from Ireland. So baseball cards weren't. He had one pair of shoes for most of his high school years. So and it was a weird year. My dad was born in '32, so it wasn't like there was a lot of cards around in the war years, right? So his most impressionable time to collect was when there were no cards. I think we have a guest.
Who's that?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
Jet.
Jets.
He's playing a shallow center field right now.
Hi, Jet. I love dogs.
Yeah. So yeah,
Um,
that's it. My mom. I always tell people my mom was my enabler. So my mom, stop biting your nails, do well in school, get a hit tonight, stuff like that.
okay. Yeah, my mom. I mean, my dad did coach a lot of not manager. He often coached some of my teams, but my mom would always take me to the games and sit along the
Yep.
sidelines with the other moms and stuff like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Um, all right, so I know you're huge in the '70s and you're building sets. But I do want to ask, and you play or collect Yaz, right?
Yep.
Do you play or collect any Phillies?
No, what's funny about this is I was thinking about
Or I'm
this.
sorry. I'm sorry. Do you play or collect any Phillies, or do you even collect any Phillies cards aside from building
No,
sets and Yaz?
the
Okay.
Phillies are no different to me than the Seattle Pilots or the whomever else. You know, I'm getting to know collectors, right? Through when I got back in the hobby about a year and a half ago. I'm getting to know how other people collect because there was never. I always collected in a vacuum. I was a lone wolf, and I assumed everybody did what I do. I assume everybody collected sets, built sets. I assume everybody collated them by their numbers and all that stuff. I thought everybody's goal was to finish the set, 1 through 660, 1 through 792, whatever it was. And it's interesting to find that now. You have, Bo with his setup with the Cubs. You have Herman with his fixation on that Dodgers player. People player collect specifically, and that's their PC. My PC is every card ever made, and I know I say that a lot, but every card ever made is what my goal is.
Yeah.
So that's how I still collect. I'm still that way. I can't, what I do find that I've done lately, instead of having one of every Yaz card, now I'm like collecting multiples and multiples. Every time I see a Yaz card, bam, even though I have all of them on the wall over there. So,
So for
or
your
all
Yaz,
of them up to a certain extent on his playing day run. So
okay. So you have all of his cards, playing day cards.
I have, I have all the Tops playing day cards, and
All
talking about
stars and
regular,
all
yeah,
the.
all that stuff, yeah. And then I
Okay.
have, of course, later on, 81, 82, 83. He started getting Don Russ and Fleer cards
Player.
as well.
Yeah.
So, and now I'm getting the Freaky D cards, like the
Was
supers and the.
85 last year?
No,
86?
his last year was 83, I think.
Was it 83? I thought he
Yeah,
had an 84. No, 84 Flair.
no.
No.
He might. Well, he might. Yeah, he might have had an 84 Fleer, but he always says that had he known the Red Sox were going to, Clemens was going to be that good, he would have stuck around a little longer.
Oh,
That's
really?
that's
Okay.
the
Interesting.
legend, and I guess Clemens came up in '84, right? So let me see what I
Yeah.
got there. No, I don't have the only Fleer I have on my wall is the '63. I don't have. I have them all in the sets. I just don't have them all. Some of those some of those early '80s Don Russ and Fleer cards are just they're not worthy to hang on the wall. I got an '81 and an '82 up there. That's for sure.
All right. I
Sorry.
know you. What is your favorite baseball set?
Man, that's tough. That really is tough because I
Give
love
me
the
a 70s.
'70s set, but I can tell you the one I like the least about the '70s, and that's the '79 set.
Why?
Um, I think that they got lazy.
Design
You
wise?
know, yeah, and the biggest problem I have with it is I just had this conversation with somebody. The biggest problem I have with it is the fact that the rookie cards are black and white, and all the
Really?
other
I didn't
cards are
realize that.
color. I have no idea. Like, why would they do that? What's the rationale for all of a sudden putting black and white photos on a 1979 in multiples of three on each card. So Chris is saying a
79.
retirement card with bench in '84 for Donruss.
Uh,
What's interesting about that, Chris, is I have the '84 set, but I have the '84. I bought the set complete, so I don't think I've seen that card. It's behind me. I just don't have it out. But I know there was a Topps retirement bench and Yaz card. Yeah. I mean, I could have 10 display cases and not have enough room for Yaz cards, and Mark Coyle can attest to that.
yeah, so yes, did have an 84 Flair.
There
Okay,
you
I know
go.
it wasn't crazy. Hey, Zach, thanks for joining. All right, so it's in 79. Now, when someone asks you what's your favorite set, do you think players or do you think design right away? Or a
Well, I'll
combination?
tell you, I can tell you that my favorite set, and I don't have it complete, is probably the 53 tops. I love the 53 tops. I know there's a lot of love for the 56 tops and the 60 tops. I really like the 53 tops.
Do you have a 53 card line around?
I have, I do. Do you want to see it?
What, yeah, I'm not a vintage guy, so I'm trying to think of which one it is. Is
Oh, wait one
53,
sec.
all right, I'm trying to think, is 53 the one where they have the two images, the portrait and then the playing shot? I don't remember. Can you hear me?
Sort of, kind of. You're in my headphones.
All right, so I was thinking, all right, so I like, or one of my probably my favorite 50s set from what I remember is the two image shot where there's the portrait and then there's the image of
There's a,
them like action shot.
yeah, there's a couple of those. I think they do that in 55 and 56.
Okay, maybe it's 56 I'm thinking
Uh,
of them.
yeah, 56 is beloved by a lot of people. So you want to see my first favorite 53 card or my second
Sure,
favorite?
of course. Fit first.
First
Or
one?
no, dude, no, dude.
That's the
I
first
saw
one.
Satchel Page. Satchel Page,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's that. And then that one.
These are 53?
That's a 53 tops. Yeah, I just think they're beautiful. They're painted.
Yeah, those are pretty.
They're not too busy. Like the two player, they have backgrounds on them. Like the 54 is just, 54s are nice, but they get a little busy with a couple players with the action shot and the portrait shot. I just think they're really I just think they're beautiful cards. Just the color and all that stuff. So
Was that the
big
same
fan.
artist for all of them? Or how do
With
they do
yeah,
those?
I think it was the same artist. Yeah,
Pretty, yeah, to be honest, I've been hearing about vintage cars forever, and I never hear people talk about who did the designs and who painted that stuff.
yeah. There's you should read a book called Mint Condition. They talk a lot about that. And I spoke to I think I had a recent chat with somebody where we there was a lot of heavy comic book culture at Tops. A lot of those guys, which is why we have a lot of cartoons and stuff like that on the back. So a lot of those guys were professional cartoonists and stuff like that. The Tops used, it was kind of like their day job to paint these pictures and design cards, but what they really wanted to do was draw comics and stuff like that. So kind of cool.
Okay, so we'll say seven. I'm sorry, you said 53 and
53 Tops is my favorite, and 79 Tops. As far as the 70s go, I think in the 60s, 69 Tops wasn't that good. It seemed like they had some bad years at the end of the decade. 59 isn't anything really to write home about either, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, since you're the
But
70s guy, what's your favorite 70s baseball set?
I will tell you, it's down to two, okay? And I was eventually going to do an episode about that, but I like the 72 and I like the 75. I like
Okay, don't tell me. You could save it for your show. Surprise people. All right. So
but
72
it kind of epitomizes the decade there. I mean, 75 set just screams.
No,
the
72. No, I might think of 74. Which one had the things on the arrows on the tops and bottoms? Is that 74?
The arrows.
Actually, I'm sorry, I have it right here. What about? Oh, I never asked you about this guy.
Oh, that's the 74. Oh, Dickie Allen. 74.
Yeah.
Richie Allen, Dick Allen.
This guy will come up later. Hold on.
Okay.
All right. So this is 74, right?
That's 74, correct? Yeah.
All right. So these are cards Mark Coyle gave me. I'm trying to find a 70. These are
the 74 All Stars and League Leader cards are probably the most beautiful League Leader cards
I'm sorry,
in the 70s.
So these are 75s, right? That one.
That's 75. Yeah.
And they have minis as well.
Yep.
And you said 72. Do I have a 72 here? It's going to take me. I'm not going to look at it. So 72 or 75. Make sure you watch John's upcoming video about which one he will pick.
Eventually. It's not imminent, but yeah, I'm still deciding. I guess I have to go through all the sets first. I have to do a show on each set, and I'll go back and tell the whys and wheres.
Well, so do you collect 80s?
I have over my shoulder, shoulder here. I think you asked me that once before. These are all the sets from the 80s, so that's top to bottom. It's Donruss, Fleer, Tops all the way across.
Okay, so that's a yes. Well, it's not just 80s. It could be 90s as well. So maybe from 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. What is your favorite oddball set?
Oddball. What do you mean, non-base set?
Yeah, I guess you can say that.
Okay. Other than the 75 minis, right?
Yes, those.
Well, first of all, there's no secret that I love my cereal cards, Dan.
Right. No, I was going to say food issues.
There's no. I mean, I spent today putting 3 Kellogg sets into top loaders, and it was probably the best hour and a half I've had in my life ever. It's just so much fun, and I tell people the stories behind those are great. Like, think about a kid at a table eating cereal, jacked up on sugar, and have a baseball card in his hand. There's no better way. That's how I want to go out. Elvis went out his way. I'd like to go out with the digging for a cereal card inside of a Lucky Charms box or something.
I think my earliest ones. The earliest ones I can remember were maybe the Ralston Purina sets. I think it was 87. I don't remember which cereal I was eating. Right. I don't know. I loved Fruity Pebbles, Cookie Crisp. I don't remember who made those though.
Right.
I suspect it might be one of those.
Well, I was not a Lucky Charms. I was to this day too. Apple Jacks would be my cereal, but I think they only put them in specific. I want to say they didn't put them in every one. And Mark, who knows that stuff is Mark Hoyle, who just popped in.
There he is. I just watched him. Hello, Mark.
I would think Frosted Flakes, and I would think Corn Flakes. I don't know whether they put them in the cereal like the sugary ones that much. So
they had to, because I think that's all I ate when I was younger.
Yeah. Chris is right. I definitely open a box from the bottom.
I never thought to do that.
Gravity.
Actually, I do have this cereal box.
Cooter was a Cookie Crisp guy. Oh, there's the Wheaties.
Yeah, I like that one.
What a weird collectible, right? It's probably one of the biggest collectibles you can have,
They just had a new Wheaties box recently, right?
Did they?
I think so. And people are talking about it.
I got a Burger King card today in the mail from John Newman, which was awesome. A Thurman
Burger
Munson.
King, it'd be 86 or 87, right?
79. No, it was a 79 Thurman Munson Burger King. And those are the years where there weren't Burger King logos on the back. So if you could have 2 Thurman Munsons with 2 different numbers. They look the same, but the lower number would have been the Burger King one.
All right, so food issue. or is your favorite oddball type of card?
Yeah, I would say so because, like I said, there's a story behind those.
Right,
Those
right.
it's a great story because I love sugary, or I used to love sugary cereals, so it's like the perfect combination.
No, I agree. I would say of any of those food issues, but I grew up playing basketball with friends, then going to 7-Eleven and getting Slurpees and getting the
Right?
Slurpee coins on the bottom of the cups.
Yep.
Those are really
Yeah.
big too.
Yeah. There's so many of them. Like
Yeah, there are,
you know,
and they mean so much to us. You know.
yeah, and that's what's weird is like there's so many card issues now, but they're all coming from the same source. You know, Tops is
Yeah,
releasing a gajillion sets. You can go to 7-Eleven or Burger King or McDonald's or Cookie Crisp. There's so many different ways you can get cards from different people, and they all had different ideas. And
I
you
think
know,
I
it's a
think I'd
shame.
rather I'd rather have a card ish, even though I'm not a big on not. Back then, I didn't care about licensing about the aired out. I'm
Hmm.
sorry, the
Yep.
airbrushed out logos. Right now, I'd rather have a. I don't know. Maybe I don't. I think I'd rather have a food issue from a cereal box now than a 12th
Yep.
parallel. You know.
And Mark again with the Drakes and the Hostess. They're
Yes.
great stuff.
Yeah,
You know,
I used to be a Mattingly collector, and he had some of the. I had some of those for him.
Sugar Daddy. Yeah, it's a lost art, and I've said now at the minimum they can use these as marketing campaigns
Yes.
to get fans. Right? It doesn't. The all it is on a Drake's or a Hostess is it's just different ink you put on the back of the box. It's not like there's a physical card or they have to ramp up to produce these cards. Like the leagues are crazy for not taking advantage of these marketing opportunities.
Yeah. I
Get it in
mean,
front of kids' faces every day.
right. No, I mean, is Utz the only one still doing food stuff?
I don't know. Are they still doing it?
Well, you got. I
They
know
did it a
Utz.
couple of years
Utz.
ago, right?
Utz, right? UTZ. Utz. I think they.
Utz. Yep.
I don't know if they're still doing it, but yeah, but they're the only ones that have done it recently. The food issue. But yeah, I mean, well, I guess these companies would have to get an MLBPA license now.
Right, and part of the like uh, part of what my argument on that is like that's how you draw people to the game and get young kids to the game and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I know it's not the most healthy thing, but put your product in front of the people you're trying to attract, and you need to you know all these sports need new fans because there's fans dying every day, right? And there's plenty of
Right.
distractions every day, and these teams need fans, and it's just nonsense. Nobody's going to say I'm going to buy a box of cereal instead of a pack of Topps cards. They're going to buy the cereal and they're going to buy the Topps cards. You need
Right.
cereal, so it doesn't make any sense to me at all. So
Yeah. Meant. I was gonna do. I mean, I only have like maybe 20 people responding to polls I do on Twitter, but Kellogg's 3D. I like those mini 3D cards.
yeah,
You have those?
I bought a set of
79
I
or
bought a set of 77s in Dallas, and I love
okay.
them. Absolutely love them.
I
I
was
got
gonna do a what's your favorite oddball type of set. I was gonna do discs.
right. I have the
I was gonna do
Pepsi. I have a
Kellogg's.
bunch of those. I have the wiffle ball discs. I have the blank backs. I have the glove
Yeah.
discs. They're pretty
And in
cool.
the 80s, they had those Tetley Tea,
Yeah,
Catico. There were a lot of those.
they're
Um,
great. But the thing that sucks about them is not all of them are the same size. And like the MSA, the bigger ones don't fit in. They don't fit in top loaders, and they don't fit in any
okay,
of
I
the
didn't realize that.
boxes. So like the little wiffle ball discs, they fit in top loaders, and they're in my boxes. And some of the smaller MSA ones fit in, but like the standard size ones don't quite fit into top loaders and therefore don't fit into boxes, which is a pain in the butt. So then they're in a Tupperware
Mhm.
back there.
What did you think of Sportflex?
I like Sportflix. Sportflix, is the same company that made the Tops ones, right? Exograph or whatever it was. So it's interesting. There's a long lineage of you can trace it from Pinnacle all the way back to the first Kellogg's cards were made by different like Exograph, then Sportflix, and then Dunruss and Pinnacle and all that stuff. It's all like very separate companies that became one company eventually.
There you go.
Mark's rubbing it in.
Marks. I've got 22 different MSA
Yeah,
discs.
yeah, yeah.
So
It's fun. And I'm sure he's got the full Pepsi glove one as well, right, Mark? But that's the difficult one because that's if you've seen those, Dan, they're just
The
hard to.
towels?
They're discs, but
Okay.
they're attached to like the checklist and all that stuff. It's
Oh,
just yeah,
I might have. I'm not sure.
yeah.
I know there's different ones. All right. So I have another question. All right. So I said, what's your favorite oddball set? Now, what is like your favorite? I guess it's. I guess this would have kept Slade. Food issue. What's your favorite obscure card or obscure Phillies card? And I'm not. I guess you could take obscure any way you want.
Oh, it's
Any
the Herb
different.
Washington, 1975 is the greatest common ever. Everybody knows that,
75
right?
top for Washington.
Yeah.
Herm
I
Washington.
hope you know why. Herb Washington. Herb the Hurricane Washington.
Can't say I do.
Really?
Anything
Oh,
pre 84. Yeah.
maybe somebody in the chat can answer that.
That's Herm. I'm or Herb. Would
Herbert.
it be
Yep.
85 Herb
Mickey
Washington?
got it. Yep.
Okay, pinch runner.
Pinch
Wait,
runner
no.
card. Yeah. So
Oh, pinch runner.
Charlie
Good job,
Finley
maybe.
decided he was going to hire a pinch runner. That's all. That's all this guy was going to do, right?
Does it say PR or what? Pinch runner? It says pinch runner.
Yeah. It says. And they made. He's only
Wow.
got two cards, and one's a mini and one's a regular. It says pinch runner, and the run
Is he
is
the only one that has that?
no, everybody's got them,
Oh,
but
okay,
they're
okay.
great. It's like the greatest common ever, and you know why? Because however many games he played in, let me see if I got that right. He scored runs, stole bases. He never picked up a bat, never picked up a glove. So
Really? Wow.
yeah, he was strictly a pinch runner, and
Was he? I'm sorry. What did you say? He was the only one to do that?
well, for the amount of games he played, I'm sure
Okay.
people have come up as pinch run for an inning
Right.
or whatever, but he played like a whole season where 80 something games, I think it was, where all he did was pinch run and never came up to the plate, never took the field in a defensive position. So yeah, and he was he was like a world class sprinter at Michigan State or something. And Charlie Finley, read about the A's sometimes in the early '70s. You'll get a good chuckle out of that.
All right. So this one will be interesting. I'm wondering if it's one of the guys you just showed me. Do you have a single favorite card?
Yes, I mean, are you talking about? I have the card that's going to go to my grave with me. Although I'm not
Oh,
going
and
to
I
going to
forgot
go
what
into the oven with me. It's my coffin
was
card.
it a coffin card? Yeah, I know Ken likes to say that. I think a coffin card. I don't know if he says coffin, but I know I've heard that before. Coffin cards. So yeah. So what? Who is it?
It's the 60 Yaz, right?
60
So,
yes.
and the reason is my dad, my dad got it for me, or I bribed my dad into getting for me, and I told him I'd pay it off $1 a month for 25 months, and I think I made it $3 in, and I still have the card. I owe him $22, and I have that. I got it slabbed. It's in an SGC3, but it's my favorite card in the whole world. I have a Yaz. I have a 60 Yaz. It's in an 8, and it means nothing compared to this SGC3. So
All right.
yes, Cooter, it's the one Dr. Jim didn't vote for, and I had a few words with him about that in Dallas last weekend. He says he does off the record. He says he screwed up, but yeah, I don't know how you can't vote for that card for the Baseball Card Hall of Fame. It missed by one vote, I think, last year. Or it was one place out last year. 60 as.
All right. What? All right. Well, I want to ask you this. What is, and then take it however you want. There's lots of different things you can do in a hobby with collecting cards, selling cards, meeting people, which a lot of people think is probably the hobby. What is your favorite part of the hobby?
Well, obviously it's collecting, right? Because I wouldn't do this. This isn't something I do in order to, get me to another level. So
Mhm.
obviously collecting, but I will tell you that I have met the nicest people since I started podcasting or YouTubing, either virtually or in real life. The people I got to hang out with this weekend, right? Cooter and Kin and Logan and John Newman, Mike Moynihan. Like it's amazing, right? You get to, and we all have one goal, and that's to collect sports cards. That's our goal. But to be able to hang out and chat with people and do it virtually like we do and stuff like that, it's just amazing. You know what it's like at 7 Central, 8 Eastern, 9 Korean time. it's amazing, right? Every morning it's like that. It's fun. It's a good time. It's just there's so many good people, and I'm glad that my collecting renaissance has brought me to that, because other than that, I'd be in the cards with my basement in my basement with my cards, but it's like the friendship and the personal stuff now is it's pretty darn cool. Again, I
And
collected
like
by
kids having fun
myself.
with each other. Yeah.
I collected by myself when I was growing up. My brothers didn't collect, my friends didn't collect. So that's the biggest thing. I mean, I hey, no offense, I'd have to give up my friends before I give up my cards. But boy, what a great double whammy that is, right?
Hmm.
And you learn so much from folks. Like even on Twitter, you see people posting cards that they have, or it's just amazing how much there is to learn, and it's never going to stop. So, which is why I really don't have to have a taste for the modern hobby, because there's so much history in the hobby that I haven't covered as far as collecting and reading about and stuff like that. So it's the best. It's absolutely the best. Everybody that's in it like us long term knows it's the best. So
Yeah.
I'm preaching to the choir, right?
Did the cards inspire the content, or was it the memories of the '70s, or was it that '70s show?
Well, what? I'll be honest with you, Diego. I was laying in bed one night, and what inspired me to do a show was listening to Dr. Jim's show, and like hearing essentially the history of baseball card collecting as we know it from the '60s on up. And then I decided to do the show, and then like before I did decide to do the show, I that name came to me when I was laying in bed. I was like, well, that's perfect for now. I got to do a show, and I think the '70s, and I'm a broken record to whoever's heard me being interviewed before, but there is no better time in sports than the '70s. I'm not saying it was the best decade with the best players. I'm just saying that the amount of change that came through the '70s. You have your modern game and you have your old-fashioned game, and in 10 years, everything just changed, whether it's AstroTurf, relief pitchers that nobody cared about before, suddenly they were a thing, designated hitter, the uniforms, the stadiums, television, everything happened in the '70s, and it changed the sport absolutely forever, and I think for a positive. And it was a colorful time, both literally and figuratively, so I don't think there was any better time. And of course, it was when I learned to collect and I learned to watch sports. So it's a very long answer, but
Okay.
as you could tell, I'm very inspired by the '70s.
All right.
And the
We're
music
going
was the
on
best too, by the
120.
way.
Yeah, we're going on 1 hour and 20 minutes, 1 hour and 2 minutes of which are live. Um, all right, I have some name associations for you. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to name a player. You just tell me, give me a brief summary of what you thought of them. Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's start with Steve Carlton.
Stone cold nut job.
Stone Cold Nut
Great
Job.
Great pitcher though. I mean, up until Randy Johnson, he was the greatest, left-hander I think that ever pitched. I mean, Warren Spahn had more victories and all that stuff, but I think Carlton was devastating.
Okay. Pat Burrell.
Pass. Pat Burrell. You know what sucks about Pat Burrell is Pat Burrell, whatever you want to call him. Pat Burrell. It sucks when you have all that talent, and he had a lot of talent, and you're in a town that's very difficult, because I think he's from the Bay Area, right? So a little bit more laid back, and it's like you hate to see a player get affected by that nonsense. And we talked about Mike Schmidt earlier. Mike Schmidt was from Dayton, Ohio, Midwest-ish, but he grew a thick skin. I don't think Pat Burrell ever grew that thick skin, and I think he didn't get to live up to his potential, and that's not his problem or his fault. I mean, but he was built as the next big thing, and he just never lived up to it, unfortunately. I mean, he was a decent, solid player, but he was supposed to be the next whatever, the next Mike Schmidt.
All right. Yeah, actually, Burrow reminds me, I forgot to put him on this list, is Scott Rowland.
Scott Rowland. See, now I'm more anti-Scott Rowland than I am Pat Burrell, because Scott Rowland openly criticized Philadelphia. He openly wanted to be traded. He had a problem with the vet surface, which you can't fault him for that. But Mike Schmidt did it every day as well, and never said he wanted to be traded. Never criticized the fans too much. In fact, Mike Schmidt had one of the best moments in Philly history when he did criticize the fans, and he came out the next day and diffused the situation. He wore this big wig and sunglasses. So I'm not a big Scott Rowland fan. I understand that he probably will get into the Hall of Fame, but obviously it'll be as a Cardinal.
Okay, association. Next one I have is Chase Utley.
Chase Utley is one of those guys where you look at his stats and you think he should have had way more. I mean, the guy was a stone cold stud, and you thought that he'd have, if you'd think he'd have 350, 400 home runs and 2,300 hits and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And but no complaints about Chase Utley at all. I think he was the kind of guy that showed emotion when he needed to show emotion and was ice cold when he needed to be ice cold. So, I think, essentially the perfect player. It's a shame he couldn't have racked up more stats, or he would have been in the Hall of Fame probably.
All right. Easy one for you. I'm wondering what you're going to say. Mike Schmidt.
Great player. The best Philadelphia Philly ever.
Okay. Jimmy Rollins.
Jimmy Rollins, love him. Loved his motor. I loved his personality. I think that he's great. He's a guy that there's chatter about Hall of Fame stuff. Now, I don't see it, or I shouldn't say I don't see it. I think he's one of those guys in the foyer of fame. Like, he kind of is on the edge of it, but if you're going to let Harold Beans in, you might as well let Jimmy Rollins in. But I think Jimmy Rollins was great. I loved him. I think he was a real spark plug, and like, again, great personality, and I think the world of him.
All right. A few of these, I don't know how long these guys played for them, but I know they did. So I think they're quirky players. Greg Luzinski.
The Bull, awesome. Should have stayed in Philly. No offense, Dan, but he should have stayed in Philly, man. He was on fire.
All right.
They probably would have won another world championship or two if he had stayed. Yeah.
Ryan Howard.
I love Ryan Howard. I think he's great. Here's a guy who, just hit a lot of home runs, and
was he injured a lot later in his year?
Yeah. In fact, the last time we saw him, I think it was in the World Series. I think he blew out his Achilles or something on the last out of the one of the World Series.
Was it injuries that kept him from succeeding?
No, I mean, he had some great years. He actually came up a little late. He was a late bloomer. I want to say he came up when he was 26, maybe.
Oh wow, that is late.
Diego probably knows that better than I do, but I know he came up late because Jim Thome was in front of him, and it was always the big debate, like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And they finally brought him up, and the guy was, had a great, 6 or 7 years, outstanding. Mm-hmm. So right, I don't mind a guy who hits the bombs, because you got to remember, I grew up in an era where you could hit 258 and 39 home runs and 120 RBIs, and you're at the MVP. So I don't mind what he did.
This guy's before your time, but maybe you know a lot about him. I'm not sure, but Robin Roberts.
Great pitcher, absolutely. Yeah, great pitcher. Before my time for sure, but not the greatest pitcher in Philly history, and not the greatest pitcher in Philly's history. The greatest pitcher in Philly history was Lefty Grove for the A's.
All right, this one, I just threw his name in there because I when I think Phillies, 87, 88, I think Von Hayes.
5 for 1?
Is that what his name is? What is it?
5 for 1? 5 for 1n. And
what does that mean?
They traded 5 players for him, including Julio Franco, Manny Trio, and a couple other guys. Maybe
so is that a bust of a trade?
No, he was just a guy that, he's a guy, again, back then in the early 80s, he could hit 285 for you, and a solid right fielder, but there's that pressure. I think Pete Rose is the one who gave him that nickname, 5 for 1. But again, a person who's going to be what they're going to be, but then when they step into the spotlight, especially a place like Philly, some people aren't going to be they're not going to be, everybody's not going to be Mickey Mantle, right?
Right. Okay. Well, you mentioned Pete Rose. How long did he play for the Phillies?
I want to say 79 to either 83 or 84. So he was 79. He came on and won the World Series in 80. They went back to the World Series in 83, and I'm not sure if he left for the '84 season or left for the '85 season. I feel like he left after the '83 season, but yeah, that's either '83, he either left after '83 or left after '84. There's kind of a weird area there because he played for like the Expos for a year or something, and before going back to the Reds, so it was very strange.
Tug McGraw.
Great, right? I mean, not too many people win a championship in New York and in Philadelphia. So relief pitchers were weird back then, right? They were kind of like, I think there was a game where Tug McGraw pitched like 8 innings of relief or something in the extra innings. So they were a little strange back then. But he's great. He's another one of those sparks that they needed because the Phillies won the division from 76 to 78. So they were a great team before Rose got there and McGraw got there. But a couple of these guys really put them over the edge or put them over the,
All right. That was my last word association player. But Diego has. How about Lenny Dykstra?
It's hard for me to separate the Lenny Dykstra of 2022 with the one from back then, but he was the same kind of guy. He was like the next Pete Rose, meaning he played that role. Like you get on people when they need to get on, and he's your best friend if you're on his side. But if you're not on his side, if you're not with him, you're against him, right? So they couldn't have done what they did without Lenny Dykstra, that's for sure. Diego may remember, it almost all didn't happen. Those guys almost all died in a car crash, and so they were a little crazy. Him and Darren Dalton and Kruk and all that.
All right, I have a question, a trivia question, and then a normal question, and then we could finish. Trivia question: Mike Schmidt has the most runs for a Philly with 1,506. Who is second?
Well, I would either say one of two players. I'm thinking longevity. Richie Ashburn, I don't think was there that long, but I would say I feel like saying it would have to be Rollins, would it not?
Rollins is 3, unless I was looking at an old website, which I don't think I was. But
no, I mean there wouldn't be anybody now that would have passed him. But
all right, do you want me to tell you what I thought it was the correct answer?
What you thought was the correct answer?
Well, I looked up Phillies most runs scored, and this guy was second. Phillies, Rollins.
Not Ashburn, right?
No.
Okay, who is it?
Ed Delahanty.
Ed Delahanty, okay. Now look up how he died someday. You'll be pretty surprised how he died. It's pretty gory. But, yeah, he way back Phillies. And you know what? I may have been wrong about Lefty Grove, because if you're going back that far, too, a little further than Lefty Grove would have been Pete Alexander was a great pitcher, too. So probably the two best pitchers in Philly history were Lefty Grove and Grover Alexander.
I almost put John Kruk on that list for the word association. How long did he play for the Phillies?
He probably played there about 5 or 6 years. I mean, probably a better broadcaster. He came out as a really good hitter with the Padres. He was like a hitter for average. So you expect more out of your first baseman, I think, than being a batting average hitter. You want them to drive in some runs, I think.
Yeah, like older root. Okay. And all right, I'm guessing no on both of these. In your mind, are Rollins or Utley a Hall of Famer? I would say no, but
Utley for sure. No, he had the potential. Rollins.
I'd have to go back and look. Rollins.
Yeah, but if Rollins gets in there, it's because he worked his butt off to get in there. I mean, he was talented, but he played hard and worked hard, and he was both of those guys were good with their gloves, but Rollins seemed like he worked harder at being a major leaguer than Utley did. So I think no, but obviously if one needs to get in, it's going to be Rollins for sure.
Okay, all right. Well, it's been a pleasure. I'm glad we finally got this to work.
I got blamed. Chris blamed me for being late.
Chris, it was my fault. We were 20 minutes in, and I look up to my right, and it says "Go live." And I'm like, oh shit.
And the comments just stopped at 8:09. I was like, wow, we are boring the crap out of these people.
I was nodding inside my mind, or shaking my head inside my mind. I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to tell John we weren't live this entire time. But I do want to do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
I could talk to you. Everyone could agree. Anyone could talk to you forever.
Oh, so, I thank you.
So yeah,
my therapist only does it for 45 minutes at a time, but.
Okay, we'll have to have another therapy session. But we'll have to do this again. I have a softball game
Go
relatively
get him,
strong.
man. Go get him.
Yeah, so it's a meaningless game. Next in a couple weeks we have the championships,
All right.
playoffs, and then we may be championship. But yeah, today's game doesn't matter, but I always try my hardest. So yes, John, it was a pleasure. I will talk to you later. Maybe we'll be on a hobby roundtable soon. I'm not sure when the next one is.
Get Herman away from the baseball games, right?
Yeah, we have to get him away from those games where he's by himself. Okay. All right, John, it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you for everybody for joining, and we will talk to you later.
Later, guys.
So,
Thanks.
see you.